girl, hey. You've entered Baddie Behavior, where the breast cancer baddies come together with other survivors and thrivers to have candid conversations about life, sex, body changes, and relationships after breast cancer in a judgment-free space. All are welcome. Let's get started.
Hey y'all, my name is Miranda and I am one of the OG Baddie Ambassadors with For the Rest of Us. I was diagnosed in 2016 with stage 3 hormone-positive breast cancer. I live in Houston, Texas, and I am a stay-at-home mom with a family of 5. I have used my breast cancer diagnosis to motivate me and propel me into volunteering more with the breast cancer community. I love connecting women with each other and resources just to help make their lives a little bit easier.
Well, thank you, Ms. Trish, for being here. I have one half of the lovely Hip Hop Happy Hour here, and we're just going to be talking about all things advocacy in the community, just advocating for yourself and how you got started. Just going to share what we can teach, what you have to share with other young women who are newly diagnosed and how they can learn to advocate for themselves. So why don't you just give me a little background about who you are, where you're from, and how it is that you kind of got into advocacy.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. My name is Trish, New York City. I'm from New York City. I was diagnosed in 2016. I found my lump. And I guess that's part of where the advocacy begins, right? The first time when you have to kind of fight for yourself. So I fought for getting a mammogram because I was not 40 at the time, no history, and was subsequently diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, initially staged 1, and then on the operating table post with the tumor board, they upstaged me to stage 3.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. When they saw it at first with the MRIs and the scans and this and that, they told me, oh, it's like tiny. And so you could probably even just like get a lumpectomy and move on with your life. But I think I was just so, I'll say the word caught off guard. That doesn't seem like it really encapsulate the feeling. But like since I was so caught off guard that I felt like the immediate distrust of my body. And so I was like, I don't want a lumpectomy. I want you to take every last bit of anything that could be connected to this cancer out. And so, because I had the great misfortune of having twins many years ago, I was carrying this unwelcome kangaroo pouch that they were able to make and mold and shape into new breasts. So I had a deep flap.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a little bit of vanity on my part. In the midst of my sorrow, I picked a little vanity. But that is the second decision that saved my life because, deep flap is so invasive. That, it was on the operating table that my plastic surgeon found a micrometastasis in my chest wall. And so it was a little game changer. Now I'm stage 3 and then chemo and the whole shebang. And so, listen, even going back a little bit, my son, I have twins. One of them had leukemia 2 years before my cancer diagnosis. And so really it was being a caretaker for him and then navigating my own journey with cancer that I realized that like taking a back seat to your treatment is not going to render the results that it can if you are an active participant. And that being a quote unquote, just like good guy that gets along, go along and get along. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work in that kind of setting. You have to be the squeaky wheel. You have to kind of make noise and make yourself known, or else you'll just get disregarded. So that's kind of the origin story. Yeah.
Why do you think, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
Why do you think it is that so many people don't speak up for themselves? Because I've encountered that too. I think we just, just first off, I would imagine that most people think, well, they're the doctor, they're God, they know all these things that I don't know. But I'm interested to see what you think kind of the big reason is that we don't speak up.
Oh, there are many things, many intersections. I think first, as women, we're socialized to kind of play small and quiet and don't challenge the system, particularly when you put BIPOC women in the mix, Black women, Black, Indigenous, people of color. We're all kind of like, it's that layer of, okay, we don't want to make noise, but additionally, you don't want to call attention to yourself because our job, whether you're fresh off the boat or first generation like me or whatever, is to like quietly assimilate. Yes. Right. So you're not supposed to make a ruckus. I think that's part of it as well. And yeah, like you said, it's the whole, like the doctor knows best. And so defer to the doctor. I think all those things come together and we, are just kind of said, all right, let's just see what the doctor says. Let's just do what the doctor says. But you quickly learn that they may be well versed in cancer, but they don't have a specialty on your body, my body, your breast, my breast. And so it has to be collaborative or else, it's that one size fits all. There's a lot of bending and twisting and figuring it out. And this doesn't work and that doesn't work, or this med doesn't work. It works for you. It doesn't work for me. Like I had terrible nausea doing chemo. Absolutely terrible. Whereas some people coast. Whereas some people can take, the different meds that they give and they're fine. Mm-hmm. I didn't. So it's important for them to like go to work, work with us to figure it out. It's not easy though. It's not fun. Who wants to be seen as the bad guy? Who wants, when you come to the doctor's office, you can feel the secretary's kind of like, exhale, here she comes.
Yeah. I don't mind doing that because that was easy for me to do because I did that in school stuff. So like the office knows who I am. I know that you probably don't like that you know who I am, but I'm okay with that. But the whole medical complex is a completely different beast. Yeah. And I actually know that you are, I'm not sure what you're doing now, but that your profession is a nurse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I would assume that a lot of people probably think that, being a nurse, you have like the inside track to whatever.
You would think, right? Yeah, you would think like, yeah, of course you're in medicine. I'm sure Dr. Alexia people say to her, like, you must know. Now, we're all novices. And even if you're an oncologist, I would imagine still when you're the patient, first of all, the shock of it all, you lose all your skills, And exactly. Being a nurse didn't prepare me for this. The only thing it could say was that I realized by being in the profession that people are human. We kind of have this kind of like medical professional equals God complex type. They are there and we're here. I'm like, nah, they're not. They smoke, they drink, they curse. They don't know everything. They pretend they do. Some do, some don't. Some are humble. Some are like braggadocious, So that's the only thing that kind of prepped me for this was just recognizing that they're just regular people like us and need to, I know some people say doctors work for me. I'm like, I don't like that language necessarily. I like to say we are working together.
Yes. A team effort. Yeah.
It's a team effort. It's a collaboration. Because I would imagine they want to make sure that I understand what's happening because they want compliance, right? They don't want to just prescribe something and know that, that person just rejects it. I want to buy in. I want to understand why you chose this course of treatment versus the other. And then it'll make me say, I get it. And then I will comply. I'll take the meds every day because I've gotten a proper education. The systems run better when everybody's on the same accord. But it doesn't always work that way because, again, humans equals fallible equals sometimes ego gets in the way.
I will say that following you, you actually did have an influence on me. I did not want to buy a pill sorter for a very long time because I felt like I'm not 50. I'm not ready to get to that point. And then just seeing your reels about forgetting your medication, which happens all the time. Like, why don't I just do this? So I have a pill sorter thanks to you.
Woo!
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. And it's nice to hear that. You put these things out there so you don't know sometimes, am I talking to myself? Does it resonate?
Oh, no. Yes, it absolutely does. Yeah, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
That's good.
I wanted to ask, going back to you saying your son that dealt with leukemia, was there any kind of situation in his treatment, I guess, that really opened your eyes to learning to, kind of speak up or question the doctor or, make sure that you guys are on the same team?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. There is, and it will live in me for the rest of my days. He had a very tough treatment because whereas, we as breast cancer patients or whatever, you get your treatment, you got to come in for chemo, but you're still at home, you're living your life or attempting to live a life. His was so acute. He was hospitalized and inpatient for the first 3 months of his treatment. Anyway, so we were like living in the hospital. I was given a room at the Ronald McDonald place, but I was like, I ain't going. I need to be at his bedside, particularly after this incident. Yeah. So he was given his treatment, the meds, and he was in such pain that they were giving him morphine. He had like a pump, but also they were giving him some other med. I mean, it was really tough. Okay. So I guess he got this morphine or whatever painkiller thing. Every, let's just say, 6 hours, the nurse would come and administer his meds, give him these pills that he would take. The way that these pain relievers mostly work is just talking basic, is that because your body is like fighting, right? Pain. And when you're pain, your heart rate goes up and all these things are happening. So it's part of what the pain reliever does is get your body to kind of basically chill out. Slows your breathing, slows your heart rate, gets you in a place where you're comfortable and everything is clicking away. He had respirations. We're all supposed to have a certain amount of respirations per minute, whatever the norms are, 8 to 20, whatever it is. His was like basically, he was like inhaling 2 times per minute, which means like barely nothing. His body was beyond relaxed. It was almost, dare I say, comatose. Here comes the nurse, very matter-of-factly, clicking her list, giving him his meds, including that med. Now, I was dozing up and I woke up and I saw this. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you giving him? First of all, he's not yelping. He's not in pain, active pain. And he's breathing so slow. Why are you giving him this? She was a little bit like, you dare question me type of thing. Yeah, I do question you because he's not in a position to speak for himself. So I have to advocate for him. Why are you giving him this? Well, it's part of his meds. I said, yes, but you have discretion as his health care provider to decide, you know what? It was prescribed for him, but he doesn't need it. So I'm going to hold it, whatever. She was just going to give it because it was on her list of things to do. I said, well, if he's breathing 2 times a minute, you give him this. He'll cease breathing. You know what I mean? And so it was like a push and pull, but she couldn't give me answers as to why. All her answers were, it's on the list. You know what I mean? So I realized then and there that I speak in generalities because they're not, everyone's not like this, but these are people's jobs.
Right.
Much like an accountant has to make sure the ledger adds up. And if he doesn't, oh, well, or if he has to. So, whereas for us, it's life and death. For them, it's a function of their job. So it's in our interest to get involved, to push back because, the repercussions are that you'll be unalive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something terrible. And so I was like, oh, snap. I need to be alert. I need to be able to have these people answer these questions and know it better than they know it so that I can spot irregularities. I can spot shoddy treatment. That was a game changer for me. And so I was like, oh, all right, this is what advocacy looks like. It doesn't just mean like, staying quiet. It means sometimes being the bad guy, having people like roll their eyes at you and catch an attitude, but that's okay because we have to remember, right? Like we as people, you don't want people to hate you. You want to go through life and people like you, but at the end, they're not coming over for Thanksgiving dinner. We're not going out for happy hour and chilling. You know what I'm saying? So them liking me still stops at the doors of the hospital. So it really shouldn't matter whether they like me or not. They're going to treat me fairly. They're going to do right by me and my family. And so that's where it clicked for me, I guess, because I didn't want to not be liked. I wanted the nurses to like me. But I realized that them liking me doesn't mean that they're going to treat me any better. The treatment should be the same regardless. So abandon that line of thinking that you need to get people to like you in order to do right by you. And once you do that, once you have that in place, then you can just not have anybody mess with you, basically.
I think that's interesting because we all do that, right? We go, even when you're feeling your worst, I feel like a lot of us still going to the hospital for chemo or having a baby or whatever it is, we want to put some makeup on maybe or put like some nice clothes on because we do want them to like us. And we do think if they like us, they're going to like give us extra or go out of their way, some kind of extra way. But obviously that's not the case.
It's not. I mean, listen, we're human. We're not robots. So I'm sure that maybe they'll bring you the good ginger ale and the like nice snacks if you curry favor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's obvious. However, like I said, the baseline treatment should still be the same, regardless of whether they like you or not. So you're better off speaking up to, and I think, you want to be able to say, like, if this didn't work, that didn't work. How would you know if you're not involved in it? If you're not having these people answer these questions? Again, they get to leave all of this. When they take off their uniform, when they get home, they're also taking off all this stuff, all your problems, all this medication. They're leaving it. I remember, if I can say another little anecdote, when my son, again, another lesson. Oh, my son was terrible. Woo! My God. I mean, he was just like, they'd be like, good morning. And he'd be like, what's so good about it? And like, or not answer them and I'd be like, I'm so sorry. I'm just behind him trying to like make everything smooth and nice because he was just, and the nurse said to me, Mom, listen, we get it. He's sick. He's fighting for his life. If he doesn't want to engage in pleasantries, we don't take it personally because we recognize that he is going through the worst period that he could have never imagined. So don't worry about it. She like gave me permission to just not have to run behind him and like do all these things. And so the nurses and the healthcare professionals that get it. They know, listen, she's maybe not going to be her most cheery self. She has stage 3 breast cancer with no history, or like she's a threat, so let that stuff go. Let it go. I have. And it's rendered results.
It's interesting to me because I think, when you first kind of get into this community and you hear people talk about advocacy, you think that advocacy is, being on the steps of the Capitol with these big signs and these big groups and you're chanting, but it's just as simple as asking why they're prescribing a medication or why they aren't asking certain questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree.
So he was diagnosed 2 years prior to your diagnosis.
Absolutely, yeah.
Were you treated at the same hospital where he was?
Lucky for him, I guess, he, well, not lucky, but he was 14, so he is pediatric. He was treated in the pediatric unit, and I was within the same network, but part of the adult unit.
Gotcha.
But they were like, hey, Mom, some of the staff work both places. So they're like, oh, what, your son is, this time it's me, So, yeah.
Did you feel like you had a good team when you were going through treatment?
initially, it's a cancer, all chronic illnesses, but cancer in particular, I guess, is so romanticized in like media. I thought I was going to be diagnosed and that my town would rally and
yes,
they'd be taking pies and leaving them all warm on my doorstep with wasn't that way. Wasn't pretty, wasn't nice, wasn't cute. People didn't rally, partly also because culturally I wasn't telling anybody. But yeah, it couldn't have prepared me. His cancer didn't prepare me for my cancer in that kind of way. It was still a shock to the system. I had to like relearn the skills and stuff. It was not the same cancer. Like you just think you know all about the cancer until you get cancer and you realize you know nothing about cancer.
Yeah.
Did I lose the point? What were you asking again?
No, I just wanted to know if your experience with the hospital, the nurses and the doctors, did you feel like you had a good team, like you were really heard?
When I was initially diagnosed, I was in a whole different system, actually. Because even getting my diagnosis, I found my lump. I found my lump 2 weeks after passing my physical with flying colors. So when I found my lump, I was like, well, my doctor gave me a breast exam. So like, did this pop up in 2 weeks? Or like, I felt like something was off even when I walked away. They were like, oh, your vitamin D is low and you're like a little bit of anemic. So when I came back to him, I had enough wherewithal to say to the doctor, like I said to myself, let him find it. Let me not show him where it is so that in case I'm bugging out, I might be bugging out. So he was kind of like, you're back again. Oh, he's looking at his notes. Like, why are you back here? I'm like, doc, something ain't right. I found a lump. And so I was like, he looked and he was like, I don't see what you're talking about. You're fine. And so I had to take his hand. I'm like, doc, okay, what about this though? And he was kind of like harumphy, like, I mean, Dunce breasts and like, you're 30, what was it, 6 or something? So he just was like brushing me off. He wasn't telling me that there might be a potential for something, but let's see it through. He was very much like, no, you're making a big deal out of nothing, without using those words, of course. Mm-hmm. And so I said, doc, no, my son got leukemia out of the blue. It's not without reason to feel like this might be something out of the blue. Can we just, and so I'm like, why is he gatekeeping a mammogram? Like, he ain't paying for it. Like, get out the way, sir, and just write the script and let me go take care of my business. But there's a level of gatekeeping that these people do, that they're between you and where you need to be. And so you're kind of trying to find a way to get around him. Anyway, I'm taking a long route to say that, like, that experience, that was the part of it in the beginning where I felt like I can't trust this guy because he didn't find it. And I'm going to need for him and I to be on the same page. So let me keep going. So I moved into the network where my son was treated. Even though, like I said, I was in the adult part. And for the most part, my oncology team, I felt good about. The center I felt good about. And you don't even know these things when you get cancer. You're like, oh, I want to go where all the cancer people go. And like, you don't realize that like cancer, you become in the chronic like category now. So even something as, it seems so trivial, but believe me, it's a big deal. Parking. That was part of my decision also into leaving the network where I was, because parking was hell. And I was like,
get it. Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute now. I'm going to come here every like 2 weeks plus follow-up appointments plus this and this. And I got to put coins in and like have to worry about, I was like, no. So, I went to a place where I don't have to worry about that. Like it's one less thing to stress about. Cancer is enough. Absolutely. So once I left, I felt more at ease. It's not over. There's always fighting. I've posted about me having to fire doctors and leave one practice and go to the other and write letters and stuff. So it ain't sweet, but it's definitely better than where I was initially. Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question.
Oh, here we go.
So I'm actually familiar with, let's call it email gate, whatever you want to call it, right? I'm familiar with it. And it was something that you posted on Instagram. It was very funny, but it was a very teachable moment, I think, to people in the situation where they don't feel like they are getting the care that they deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you like?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. It is email gate or gastro gate. I'm not finished. I haven't worked on how I want to bill it yet, but, yeah, when you go through cancer, like now you become what is it? My father calls it like a professional patient. Like you're in every discipline, every specialty. You go derm, you go to dermatology twice a year. You got to see gyno twice a year. Yeah. So I've had gastro issues post cancer. And so finding a good gastroenterologist was important. And I looked and I checked online and the health grades and all that stuff and found what I thought was a perfect match. And really it was. Office visit wise, he was personable. He took his time in the appointment. I didn't see him, as they sometimes do, kind of sneak looks at their watch to be like, gotta go. So it was a great in-person appointment. And he was like, all right, I'm going to give you this med and call me in 2 weeks and then we can talk and then I'll write you a prescription. So I was like, all right, we are cooking with gas. I got me a good doctor. But it's not just the doctor, right? When you pick a doctor or you pick a specialty, you're also picking their nurse practitioner, their front office who picks up their phone. If you leave a message, will they call you back? And so that became the problem with this particular office, was that as directed, I called him back so that he can give me the insight on whether he left a message. No one called back. Secretary took a note. She said she was going to let him know. Days had passed. Finally, I was like, well, you kind of do it and you move on. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm looking at my chart, which everybody looks at my chart. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, hold up now. I had to call this doctor in July. And here we are in September. I think it was almost breast cancer month, October. And I'm like, can I take this med? Will he call me?
Wow.
And so that's when I really got pissed off, because I said, listen, what if you're in a really critical situation and you're trying to get through to your doctor? Is this the kind of treatment that they do, that they just pass you along and there's no one to? So I escalated, which is what you do, and went to the office manager. Everyone should avail themselves of your doctor's office manager because they're there to manage the office.
Right.
And I found her just as ineffective.
Oh, wow.
And then I had to pull in my skills, because you know what? Sometimes you make these calls. You think the calls are the key. And really, we're a nation of show me the receipts. Yes. What are the facts, the figures, the dates, the numbers? And so I straight up was writing the term paper. Back to school, I was at my chart with a pen and paper. I went to go, because chemo brain. I was like, all right, I went to an appointment on June, July, and I created an entire chart of when I went and when the email was and this and that, because they'll try to gaslight you. Mm-hmm. That's just the nature of cover your ass in any industry. And so, yeah, I really escalated it and this and that, because I felt, for me, I'm sure maybe Miranda, you feel that way, is that when I first started doing this kind of stuff and I was new, I probably would have just felt jilted and just went and found another doctor and didn't give them feedback. But I feel now, as part of my advocacy, I'm not saying everyone is there, but at the stage that I'm at now, I'm change will come when we let them know that there's a problem. Because they just think that people might move away and, oh, that patient is gone. But if you give them the feedback, they have to do something about that, by the way, law, internal reporting and stuff like that. So I was I am logging my complaints and I am showing all the receipts. And that's what I did. And that's what I put on the gram. Every email, every call, everything. I called the office manager, called her back again. And when I felt that she was ineffective, I went up the totem pole now to patient relations. Mm-hmm. And I kept going up and up and up. And I was able to get a call with patient relations that apologized profusely, because again, this is not me just saying, oh, whatever. I was showing her receipts. And so she had to respect the gangster. But But, again, like I said, I didn't do it for me because I think that was the part that really had me hot. Was when the office manager was like, well, this, never happens. And she kind of tried to gaslight me and dismiss me by making it seem that I was some sort of wild card that this never had happened to. And I was like, excuse me, ma'am, you say this to me, but maybe that's because no one else has had the opportunity to come back and give you this feedback. Don't tell me that I'm just some anomaly. Right. That's not the appropriate response. The appropriate response is that we apologize profusely. We're not in the business of disregarding our patients. And here's how we can make amends. Anyway, girl, long story short, I left that practice, but I didn't leave them quietly in the night. That's for sure. They know me.
Well, people don't realize that every hospital has some type of, whether it's patient relations or, whatever the complaint department is. And I learned that just from volunteering in the hospital, that if you have an issue, you talk to the office manager. If you have an issue with that person, then you go to the head of the department and so on and so on.
Yep.
And yes, if someone in this chain should, come to you and go over whatever your concerns are and try to fix those. So
yep.
A lot of people they're just like, I think you're exactly right. We have, shitty treatment and you just kind of throw your hands up and move on.
Yep. No. Well, but before you move on, you make sure you put everybody on notice because it'll help the next person. So when this office manager fields the next complaint, if that should happen, she ain't gonna tell that person, well, this was just out of the norm, because they will remember me. And maybe that'll make them kind of comport themselves accordingly. Because they're like, man, she gonna snitch on us. We better get this going.
You need some Christmas cards that you can send out to people like that. How are you? Merry Christmas. Remember me?
Remember me? Maybe you don't remember this face, but you remember my email address.
All right.
From me, like that Kermit Frog meme when he's like typing all furiously. That is me, unabashed.
It was a very important lesson. And I think you showed a lot of, I'll just say, like, I probably would have wrote an email and then had to wait to send it the next day because it wouldn't have been as professional or to the point or polite. I don't even think your email was polite. It was just, I don't know. It was just
matter of fact.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a tip I'll give. And I know, like, when you're so upset and you're hot under the collar and you just want to tell them about themselves.
Yes.
Listen, we're all justified. Like, I really could have given him the business, but I felt like, you know what? I was sitting comfortably on the fact that I was right and there was wrong and the facts were on my side. So that presenting it almost like a lawyer would just lay out their case goes further than being, because they want to say we're women, Black women, we're emotional,
of course,
we're aggressive and all these things, because that's just human nature, right? Particularly when it's like front office tend to be non-Black BIPOC people and we the patients are Black people. So already there's the cultural divide. So they're like, here she come, swinging her neck, getting started, even though we're justified in our anger. So I was really kind of trying to be dispassionate about it. Just July 6th, appointment, July 7th, call the doctor, laid out the case, simple and plain. And so there's no emotion behind it. Like, oh, damn, she said she called on the 6th and left a message, and she called on the 8th and left a message, and no one called her back. Yeah. Then they can then put the pieces together and be like, well, you know what? She's justified, because I too would be upset, as opposed to me being, well, this bitch didn't know. Because guess what? Spoiler alert, the bitch is implied.
That's the office writing as per my previous email. Like, bitch, didn't you read what I wrote you before?
Exactly. You have to really master the art. Again, I'm not telling people to not be their complete selves, but you know what? We're trying to get results. And so, if you need to, it's like playing a video game. You need to pass this level. There's certain things you need to do to achieve the results you want. So yes, be yourself, but try to do it in this kind of way, and it'll get you further. At least one hopes.
Yeah.
That's been my kind of like North Star. It's like, you know what? I'm trying to achieve this goal. Let me just get there in the most direct route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through your son's leukemia and then going through your breast cancer situation, learning all these things, what would you say would be the definition of advocacy to you?
It is, simply put, prioritizing yourself. Really. And like, just to like strip it down to the most plain, it's really saying, you know what? My health comes first. My peace of mind comes first. Yeah. And then all these other things align with that when that's your North Star. Because if you say that my health comes first, that means anybody that's not working on a team to achieve that goal, you got beef with. Mm-hmm. If it means like, you know what? I have only an hour to come to an appointment. And so when they give me the appointment, they have to give me the one that's in the morning. It's all these pieces that go under that one umbrella, which is I come first. I am prioritizing myself, not their comfort, not their whatever, me. I'm the patient, and me being healthy and strong and satisfied is what we need to work towards here. Mm-hmm. Above all, because everybody should be walking in their doctor's appointment feeling like I'm the most important person in here.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And the doctor and the support staff should be making you feel like the important. What you going to deprioritize me and just disregard me? No. Mm-mm.
Not today.
Not today. You're going to prioritize you, Miranda, because you're important, and prioritize me because I'm important, and everybody should be comporting themselves accordingly. That's it. Mm-hmm. We're not going to have no problems if they're like that.
It seems pretty basic. You would think, everybody would just kind of fall in line with that same thinking.
But not because, and we can start talking about society and people being selfish, but that's a whole nother Zoom call. But yeah, it really is that simple. But it's hard because isn't that the Black woman, BIPOC woman's mantra, is that like everybody's important before we put ourselves, like we'd come last. That's the story of our lives.
That's how our families raised us, that you're there to serve. You serve your children, you serve your partner, you serve church or whatever it is. So yeah,
so I bet you that would be the poll or like the question that I want asked, and have everybody be like, oh snap. Like for me and for so many people that BIPOC women that I've encountered in this breast cancer journey, the first time in our lives that we put ourselves first was when we got sick. We telling on ourselves, because this is the true tea, that like no other time in our lives were we able to be like, I'm not doing this, or I need to do this because it's important to me and I come first. Girl, I see your face. Hello, I can't hear you, Miranda. You got something
I'm guilty.
to say?
I'm absolutely guilty of that. 100%. And even so, it's still hard because you have guilt because your family's taking on all your jobs, or they're not doing it right. And yeah.
It's hard. Again, we've, like you said, like all roads, my whole life, it was just like the younger brothers go first. You got to cater to the parents and their first generation, and then you got to prove it. So like, yeah, me being sick was the first time that you're like the center of attention.
Yeah.
The main character of your life was when you're sick. And that is the worst way to get attention.
Yeah, right.
But that's how it is. And so it's so uncomfortable, and you don't know what to do because you've never had to exercise that muscle. But here we are, because if you don't do it, your life is on the line. Mm-hmm. Woo!
Dropping some straight fire truths. I'm
thinking about it as I'm saying it. I'm like, wow.
It's easier to say it to someone else, but when I think you apply it to yourself, it's like completely different,
Yeah. Wow.
I think the the biggest takeaways that I have is from our conversation, the biggest takeaways I have would be to keep up with your My Chart. Everything that happens, you can see it on your My Chart. You can send messages through your My Chart. You can see responses. You can see if they've read your emails through My Chart. Also, avail yourself to the office manager, because they're going to be the, I don't know if I would say gatekeeper, but they're going to be the person that's going to help you kind of get in, make friends with the office staff, because they're always going to, hopefully, they're going to help you if you help them.
Exactly.
And then the last thing that you spoke on was just being dispassionate. When you are kind of bringing up your issues to your doctor, try to leave your emotion out of it and just stick with the facts. So that way their vision of you isn't clouded by any kind of emotional stereotypes that they might have. And then, I guess just prioritizing yourself.
Yep. And in and out of the cancer diagnosis, prioritizing yourself shouldn't just be relegated to making sure you get the first appointment or the this and that. It's like the lessons that we learn in this, again, we use the word journey because we haven't figured out what we can use, but like the lessons learned in this cancer journey shouldn't stay in the cancer journey or shouldn't stay in cancer land. It should also extend to outside of the cancer journey, right? Because it's like now we're entering into like Miranda 2.0 and Trish 2.0 and like Marissa and everybody 2.0. And so you're like, okay, I can't just like leave that there and continue where I left off. I need to take all that lessons that like putting myself first and advocating and speaking up and like noticing something off and saying something on it as opposed to swallowing it. Like that should then now apply to all the aspects of your life because we're complete people, right? And so it's important to not just leave that there. Oh, that was then. No, that was then leading you to where you are now and where we continue to go.
Beautifully spoken. 100% agree.
Thank you.
This is my last question for you.
All right, here we go.
What do you enjoy more? Dancing at your chair during hip hop happy hour or dancing at Target in the aisle?
Good question. Okay, hold on now. Target. I like both. I know it's a cheesy answer, but I like both because dancing at my chair doing the live, particularly if people are hyped in the comments, like, they're into it, but there's something I find particularly amusing about the dancing and that one with the whole, like anybody can come around furniture and say like, what the hell is that woman just dancing next to the comforter sheets?
Yeah.
But then also like, I know the person watching my grandma at the time is getting a chuckle and they too, like I've seen a couple people like tag me when they're turning up, on the aisles. So, I do these kind of things because I really want folks to just finding joy or prioritizing joy doesn't always have to be these grand sweeping, I'm going to Paris and backpacking for a month and like, it could be like little small moments in your everyday life that you turn like a regular thing into a joyous moment. Like, first of all, shopping at Target is joyous, but like now you add a little razzle dazzle of you turning up to Dolly Parton right there by the kitchen utensils. Hello, that's fun. It's fun for me to do, and it's fun for me to know that someone is watching and getting a chuckle. So I would say both, but maybe the Target one, because that one, I just feel the ripple of that one maybe more.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. But I have seen people start to do it now too, and it's catching on little by little,
Yeah. Just find little things, find little moments that are joyful. Walk into the post office, whatever. Put your own spin on it so that, we can't all backpack through Europe. The pockets sometimes won't allow, or sometimes the health won't allow, because believe me, I have my limits. My joints are not on the same page with the rest of my body. And so the most I can do probably sometimes is turn it up at Target, but that's okay.
Well, this conversation has brought me joy. I will definitely be dancing the next time I get to my local Target for sure.
Good.
But also, Hip Hop Happy Hour has brought not just me joy, but a lot of other people joy. I know you ladies, you and Tiff started this right around the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So how can other people find you and get on this joy bandwagon?
Great. Yeah. Hip Hop Happy Hour. It's every Friday. Well, it exists, but every Friday we go live. Friday, 7 Eastern. For Pacific, we go live at the Hip Hop Happy Hour account. It's hip-hop_happy hour. And it's just a place where folks can be. Really, we have no grand plan. We could be joyous. We could be miserable. We can lament about like lost hair, lost breasts, lost friends, but then also maybe find a little humor in those moments of like, I tried to slick down this like little baby fuzz that came back in after chemo and like, here I am looking a hot mess express. It's just like finding community in each other in this like terrible time in our lives and just kind of cheering each other and getting each other through. So Tiff and I enjoy doing it. We play the music. We invite folks to the main stage to either, like I say, vent or celebrate. And it's a little something that we do that's like kind of a gift to the community, but that we also are enriched by. And so we have our separate things. Tiff has her account. I have my account, but we come together like a mighty Voltron on Fridays to do this thing. And so, and we love it because folks have found their community, like other communities. Like we love the fact that we're the water cooler of the cancer and chronic illness community. And so people like your very own Veronica, who's a baddie, found For the Rest of Us by watching one of our lives.
Yeah.
And we reposted something and she found you guys and she's home with y'all. And so we just love that folks come in sometimes as newbies and walk away with friends just from being in the comments. Yeah. So we invite everyone to come join the party every Friday as we gear up for us entering into year 3.
Wow.
Of this little pastime endeavor that we do.
It's great. I love it. And my life would not be complete without the amount of John Cicada and Buffalo Stance that I have received. So yeah, my kids know now.
I don't know whether or not to apologize or
ask. It's great. It's great. I love it.
Thank you.
And
yeah, we love it.
Hopefully everybody else will check it out too, and they'll love it just as much. And I would say that I hope you ladies don't have to keep doing this, but I'm glad that you do.
Yeah, same.
Hopefully we won't have to, do this for the rest of your lives, but we'll still be around. We'll be still kicking it, listening to you and watching y'all dance and all that good stuff too. So.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Love For the Rest of Us. And thank you for allowing me to kind of get some of that noise out of my head, because I think that's what we can do, right? When you go through this, it's terrible. Some of us walk away, and that's your right. You're done with cancer. Goodbye. I'm resuming my activities. I never want to talk about it and see it. But for the other folks like myself, like yourself, that now want to take this kind of pain into some sort of purpose, make sense of it. Right. I feel like it's our duty, if we can, to kind of impart whatever we picked up along the way, because that's how I got here, by someone saying something to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And so that's my plan, is to just like passing it along, with the hopes that one day we won't have to do this at all. But until that time, here I be.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Trish. I really appreciate you being here. And this has been a great conversation. And I can't wait to see you online again.
That's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
This is another Baddie creation brought to you by For the Rest of Us. Don't forget to subscribe to Baddie to Baddie wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at For the Rest of Us, on Twitter at The Breast of Us, and check us out online at breastofus.com. Thanks for listening.